Hi everyone, how you doing? Bev Fire with South Tex Creations, and today we are going to be doing the St. Patrick's Day centerpiece. We will be using the green cauldron, and we're going to be painting the little, I don't know, what do you call these? The little handles on this gold. And I have a wide variety of items here that we'll be using. Hey everyone, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and prep these little handles here on either side. So I'm going to use a nail file just to show you how simple this is. What you're wanting to do is knock off this shiny surface. That's going to allow the paint to adhere to the rings better. Okay, so just take any file that you have. If you don't have a file, use a fingernail file and just grab it on the end, put your finger down like this and just start kind of roughing up the surface. And we're only roughing up the ring, okay, not anywhere else. And what that's going to do, it's going to create something that is called a tooth. And that's going to allow for the paint to adhere to this surface. If you were to paint this surface just as is, the paint would separate and it would take several, and I mean several coats of paint for it to adhere. All we're doing here is knocking off that shiny surface and allowing it to have kind of a rougher surface so the paint can grab onto. So let me just, I'm going to go ahead and do both sides, and it doesn't take a lot. Just want to make sure you get all the way around the edges really well. And actually using this fingernail file works out really good because you can get down into the crevices nicely. Once you get it all sanded, then just take a cloth and just kind of wipe that off. That's going to get all those little particles off so you have a nice clean surface. Okay, so now we're going to rotate it and do the other side. And remember, I'm always talking about the wow factor. It's the little details that make your item stand out amongst anyone else. Okay, so I think that's really good. We're just going to wipe that off. And now we're ready to paint. So the paint that I'm using today is a metallic. It's called Deco Art Metallic Acrylic Paint. And the color is called Imperial Gold. That is my go-to color. But like I said, any gold paint will do. You just want to make sure you shake it up very well, especially when you're using a metallic paint, because you'll have all the settlements at the bottom and you want to shake this up very, very well. And since we have such a small surface to work with, I'm just going to use the paint that's in the lid of the bottle. Now for this project, I am using, if you can see that, probably a 1/4 inch angled brush, but any brush will do, whatever works for you. And we're just going to put some paint on the end and we're just going to start to paint. And I mean, this is working out really good since we knocked off that shiny coating. It will probably take 2 coats. But that's okay because the first coat is going on very smooth and it's not separating. So we're just going to paint that first. This paint won't take long to dry at all. And then once the paint is dry, then we're going to do a very thin coat of Mod Podge. But that will be at the very, very end. And just take your time going around the edges. If you happen to get some paint on the surface here, just take a damp cloth or a paper towel and just wipe it right off. But this is just going to give your container just a little more character. Okay, let me shake up. Well, no, I think I have some more paint right here in the lid. Now I'm going to do the inside. Okay, now let me show you this up close. You can still see the green coming through the gold. So that's why we're going to do 2 coats on this. So while this is drying, I'm going to flip it over and go ahead and do this side. We'll probably have to wait until after the centerpiece is completed before we put the second coat on. Just be extra careful when you're constructing your centerpiece that you don't accidentally touch the ring. Or you can also do this ahead of time. I would prep this ahead of time. You know, get your ring painted, let it dry, put your 2 coats on, and then put your Mod Podge on, and then you'll be ready to start working on your centerpiece without worrying that you might accidentally touch the paint. I'm going to be extra careful when I'm constructing the centerpiece for you guys. So don't touch the paint. But this is definitely going to need 2 coats. Right here is where I got just a little bit of paint overflow. So I'm just going to go in with my paper towel and just wipe that off. There we go. Now we can go back to painting. If you're not used to painting, this is where you want to just kind of take your time. Don't be in a rush. Use a brush that feels comfortable in your hand. If you want to use a thinner brush, like a liner brush, that's fine too. And we got the second one done. So here's both sides, and see how cute that is already. So we're going to let this dry. Make sure you always have a little glass of water so you can just let your brush rest in the water so it doesn't dry on your bristles. And we're just going to put the lid on this and set everything off to the side. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to take our foam block. Now, as you can see, it won't fit in there, but what we're going to do is we're going to slice the edges off at an angle. So I'm going to sit this off to the side, and you can use any kind of knife that you want to use. And here's a tip: whenever you're cutting styrofoam to fit, cut it while it's still wrapped in the cellophane. That's going to minimize any little pieces or particles to fall or fly off into the air. So all I'm going to do is go to the corner and see what I did. I just cut the corner down. I'm going to do this to all 4 corners. Now, you can keep these if you want. I normally don't because I don't have any need to. So now, let me just, and see there's very, very minimal pieces here. So now, let's just go back and see how well this is going to fit. Oh, that's going to fit perfect. All right, so we're going to take the cellophane off the rest of this. And you want to take your hot glue and just dump a lot of hot glue down at the bottom. What that's going to do is we're going to adhere the center styrofoam into the bottom so it stays nice and firm. Now we're going to just take this and drop it in. And just push it down and kind of hold it. And that hot glue is going to adhere that styrofoam to the bottom of your pot. Just press on it just a little bit. Okay. So now while that's drying and this is drying, we're going to set this off to the side and we're going to go ahead and prep our very centerpiece. So that's the first thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to put the center in first. So that will determine how tall we want our centerpiece, and then we're going to build around it with our flowers. So a couple of the centerpieces that I had shown you was something like this. You could have bought this at Michael's. It was $1.29, and that would go right in the center. Or you could buy either one of these, or you could buy both. Now what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to take both of these, I'm going to unscrew one of these, and I'm going to glue these back to back. So that way, no matter how you're looking at it, you're going to see one side or the other. And so let me get my small screwdriver. I love these little grippers. You just grip it and it doesn't slide around in your hand. Helps. Now we're just going to loosen this. Let me get a pair of pliers. So you don't need, you can keep this if you want. I'm not going to keep it. I really have no need for it. And I'm also going to cut off the string on this one over here because I'm not going to need it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue both of these back to back. And you want to line them up. We're going to put a lot of glue on here. And just press down. And there will be kind of a wedge or a little opening there. but we're just gonna, I'm gonna hold this. I'm gonna have a, well, no, I don't want to use that. We're just gonna let that glue sit. I'm gonna sit this off to the side, but this is gonna be our center. All right. All right, so while that glue is drying, I'm just gonna sit this off to the side. You can always add more glue later if you want. But we're gonna come back and let's go ahead and get started with our greenery. Now, I bought some actual 4-leaf clover from Michael's, and I'm going to add some of this. So basically all you want to do is you want to take this bottom piece and slide it up so it gives you more of the greenery at the top. And we're going to clip these off as close to the base as possible. And you can add as many or as little as you want. Right now I'm going to use just one. I bought 2 of these, but right now I'm going to use one just to see how it's going to look. And then the next thing I want to do is prepare my roses. Now these came from Hobby Lobby. These are light green roses, and they have kind of an acrylic, like a raindrop on them. Take your leaves and push them all the way up to the top. And again, cut your stems rather long. And we're going to start off with 6 of them. And the reason why I say cut your stems long is you can always cut your stems back shorter if you need to. And just push that green leaf up near the base of the flower. And we're just going to start off with 6 of these. So how many we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our small white daisies, and again, push that greenery up to the base of your white flower and cut them away from the main stem and leave as much of a long stem on these as you can. Again, you might end up cutting some of that stem off to make them a little shorter, but it's best to just go ahead and start off with a long stem, and then you can always cut that back later. So right now, I'm going to do 4 of these just to get me started. I do have 3, but we're going to start off with 4 at the moment. And then lastly, I have that bushel of light green hydrangeas. So again, the hydrangeas are going to be the main base around this. So we're just going to cut these off. You're not going to have to put a pick on these because, as I said, the stem is pretty thick. And we're just going to start off with just a few. The leaves on these do not slide. So we're just going to take the leaves and remove them. And we'll use them later. If you bought the same exact bushel that I'm using, take these little wispies that come along with it and just set them off to the side. We're also going to be using those. And let's just go ahead and start off with just cutting all of these off. And you see these nice big leaves, we probably won't use them. Do not throw these away. I highly suggest taking those leaves, once we're done, pull them off of the main stem and saving them. I save everything because you're going to use those leaves at a later date in a different project, I promise you. So right now, we've removed all the greenery from this stem. We're just going to set that off to the side. So let me just lightly touch. Okay, it's almost dry. And let's see how this is doing. I'm just going to tap some more glue right inside here. Because I want to make sure this is going to stay together very well. Okay. And this is nice and dry, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and insert this. So the way I want to insert this is, you see how the little handles are on either side? I want this facing forward, and we're just going to push that down about like that. Let me raise it up. We're going to put a little bit of hot glue on the end of this. Now we're going to push it back down and just hold it in place and let that hot glue dry. And that's going to allow this to adhere and stand upright. So let me just give you a close-up look. You see how that's facing forward? And then when you look at the side, you've got the rings. Okay, let me just hold it just a few more minutes. Now all these other cute little embellishments that we have, those are going to be going in last. Okay, so we're going to do the greenery, the ivy, and all that good stuff first around the centerpiece, and then we're going to add all the fun little embellishments popping up out of the flowers. Okay. The other thing I also bought was some ivy, just regular ivy. We're going to also add that in, but we're going to add that in after we've added the flowers. That's going to be kind of like our filler. We're also going to have some ivy kind of overflowing just a little bit over the top of your container. And leave this on. I think that is so cute. We'll arrange it somehow. That will probably be like your front. So when you're displaying this, this will be the front that will show forward with the little handle. I just think that is so darling. Okay, so let's go ahead and start adding our hydrangeas. Now, what we want to do is we want to line, how many do we have here? Let's count how many hydrangeas we end up having off of that bushel. So we have 6. So we want to evenly distribute these all the way around the base. Since we have 2 of them that are a little larger than the rest, as you can see, these are smaller. These are going to be, I'm going to put these on the side. And what you want to do is you want to take these and you want to push these all the way down into the styrofoam. So it looks something like that. Okay? So we're going to take the 2 bigger ones, the 2 thicker ones, and we're going to push those right above where the gold handle is. And we're going to push these all the way down as far as we can push them into the styrofoam. Okay? Next, we have 2 of these, or 4 more of these, I should say. So we're going to do 2 in the front and 2 in the back and just evenly distribute them. So what I would do is I would look at this face on and just kind of put one on one side and one on the other. so you have it even. There we go. And these are so cute. These almost look like miniature four-leaf clovers, the way the shape of the flower. Okay, so this is what we have so far. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our roses. And again, you don't have to use a pick, but we're going to push the roses in. Just, if you open this up, you can see there's a lot of space in there. We're going to push these roses in. Let me go ahead and put a few of them in so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. We're going to alternate them. And again, because we left the stem long, you can now go back and shorten your stems if you want. And actually, I want these roses to come up a little bit higher because I want you to be able to see the roses. And we're going to do 6 all the way around. And again, just cut some of that stem off. So there are your roses. Now there's a lot of light greenery going on here. So now what I want to do is, and you can do either way, either or. You can use your 4-leaf clovers that we bought from Michael's, or you can use some of the ivy. So let me show you what they both look like. So we're going to, let me do a little bit of both just so you can kind of see what that's going to look like. Because what we want to do is we want to break up some of this light green. And I'm going to come in right between the roses, but right above the hydrangeas. And we're going to push that ivy in as far as we can get it. And see how that looks? So let me show you what it looks like with the 4-leaf clover. Let me put one on the other side over here. And you can use both. You don't have to use one or the other. If you have both, and see, there's your 4-leaf clover. So it just depends on what you prefer. I'm kind of liking this. So I think I'm going to probably go with a little more of the ivy. And with the ivy, you want to take it, kind of separate it out, bend it, because remember, ivy or anything at that matter does not grow naturally in a straight line. Okay, so we're going to come in here. And I'm going to add some ivy. Oh, that looks real pretty. I'm going to take out the 4-leaf clover. I might end up putting that back in, but right now I'm going to do the 4-leaf clover. I'm sorry, the ivy. I'll put the 4-leaf clover in later, and just take it and bend it and shape it. And just push that stem as far down as you can get it. And if it hangs down a little bit like that, that's perfectly fine. You don't want it to be matchy-matchy. You want to have a little bit of a personality to it. and bend that clover down, or the ivy down a little bit. So see how that's beginning to look? So now the next thing I want to do is I want to start adding some of these. So I think what I'm probably going to do is add just a few right between. First of all, I want to shorten the stem because I kind of want these kind of tucked in. That's going to also help break up some of that some of that green. See how pretty that is? And you want your stems short. I know I cut some more. Here's another one. And I'm going to use some more of the daisies. And I think what I'm going to do on this one, since I have some of the daisies down towards the bottom, I'm going to do a row of daisies right underneath the centerpiece. So you're going to have your hydrangeas, your roses mixed in with some daisies, and then I'm going to have a row of daisies right in the center. So on this one, you definitely want to make sure that you cut your stem as long as you can possibly get it. And we're just going to put the daisies just underneath the centerpiece here. And we're going to put them rather close together. So I ended up using all 3 of the daisies. And the daisies were 50% off at Hobby Lobby, and they were $1.99 per little bushel. So, and you can get daisies anywhere. I mean, I saw them at, over the week, or this was a few days ago, I saw these at Walmart in their little floral section that they have. You just push them in. You want them to come up higher than the roses, but you want them to be lower just underneath your center. And I have one more. So let's see. I'll put this one right here. And you can push them down if they're a little too high, push them down a little further so there's some symmetry there. Okay. So that's what we have so far. So now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add some of these the little floor leaf clovers coming out in different areas because they do have a little shimmer to them. And again, that's going to break up some of this, let me shorten this one up. It's going to break up some of that light green. And I might even add some more ivy. I would like to have some ivies kind of streaming down just a little bit. Now, if you feel like your roses are getting lost and everything, you can pull them up a little higher so they're a little more pronounced. But remember, we still have all the fun goody things that are going to be going in here. All the little St. Patrick's Day goodies. Okay. So I think what I want to do now is I'm going to take some of this ivy and I'm just going to cut a few of them off, some of the longer pieces. And I don't want a lot hanging over, but I think what I'm going to do, and you want to cut that bottom leaf off so it gives you a longer stem. I'm going to bend it and I'm just going to come in here at different areas. Just go right underneath where the hydrangeas are. And have a little piece hanging down. And I just love how that looks. Just kind of draping down. Push that as far down as you can, and then just bend it. See how pretty that is? Now we're going to do a couple on this side. Probably not as many. I might just do one because we have the handle right here, and I don't want to take away from the handle, but I also don't want everything in the back. But you got to remember too, this is your front where the handle is. This is your back. You want your back to look as pretty as your front. So I'm going to take one of these other pieces like this. This one has several leaves on it. I'm going to just flip them around, kind of twist them. And I'm just going to find a spot and go just underneath where the hydrangeas are. And push that in as far as I can. And again, you know, once you get it in and you don't like how it looks, you can take it out. That's the nice thing. And see, I don't really care for that. It's too long. So I'm going to cut some of these leaves off and shorten up the stem. Because again, I don't want to take away from the handle because that is going to be the front part. Shove that in. There we go. Now, there's the front and there's your back. Now, if you didn't get the dark green and you purchased this lighter green, use it in the same way. I really like this lighter green. I might end up putting some of this in there. I'm not sure yet, but if you ended up getting the lighter green, use it in the same way you did with the darker green, okay? So now the next thing I want to do is I want to take some of this white, these little tiny white flowers. See how light and delicate they are? They're almost like a baby's breath. And I'm going to just put those in. Let me just see how it looks first. Just put those in randomly. Push them as far down as you can. And see how that kind of changes everything up. because you got all the big flowers, you know, and now you got these very delicate little baby's breath. Again, push your greenery up towards the front. Cut your stem. And you want to shove this, or push it in. Shoving is not the right word, is it? Push the stem as far down into the styrofoam as you can. Because we want to make this nice and full. And we're almost ready to do the fun part, adding all the little embellishments. We'll go back and add a second coat to that in a little bit. Just take extra care when you're putting these things in on where you're placing your hands, so that way you don't accidentally touch the gold that you just painted. And if you do accidentally touch it, don't worry about it. Let it dry, and then you can go back and finish adding some more paint to it. So there we go. We've got all of our flowers in. So now it's time to do all the fun stuff. So I have a variety of different things. I've got the little top hats. I've got these picks right here, which I think I'm going to put these in right off the get-go because there's so much going on. And you want to shorten the stem on these. So just cut that off. Take these, kind of spread them out. You can take the little sequin wire things, pull them out, and then just kind of go wherever you want to put them. You can put them in as high or as low as you want to. Just make sure you put them in all the way. And I have 3 of these, so I'm going to space these out pretty even, kind of like a triangle. So I have one there. I'm going to put one right here. And then I'm going to put one right here. Now I got these at Michael's. I think, I'm sorry, not Michael's. Where did I get these at? These came from, yeah, these came from Michael's. Hobby Lobby also has these. But you see how I just open them up, pull the little sequin wire out. And I'm only using 3, so I'm putting these in a triangle style. And once you get them in, then you can move your little the little pieces around. So now what I want to do is I want to add the top hats. I love these top hats. And again, that's just going to give it a little more. Let me find my scissors. Where are my scissors? Here we go. See these cute little top hats? Now, since I only have 3 top hats, I'm going to put these in between the triangle that I created with this. And again, you want to cut down that long stem. And you just want the top hat kind of peeking out. Now, if you bought these, the little colander with the little coins in it, instead of top hats, do the exact same thing. If you bought both, then just put them in wherever you would like. Okay, now I only have one of these, so I think what I'm going to do, since this is the front of my centerpiece, I'm going to add this one. I only have one, and I'm just going to use it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stick. I'm going to push a stick right down. Well, let me get it started first. So I'm going to put a stick right there, and I'm going to put just a dab of glue underneath it, just to hold that stick in place. And I'm going to just sit that off to the side and let that glue dry. Now, if you happen to have bought the clear container that had all the different little pieces in, you can add those in as well, like the little top hat, some more coins. So I'm going to add more coins, more, I think I'm going to probably add a few more of the clovers. And this is where saving your sticks off of bushes, like for example, on the rose bush. Once you've taken your roses off and you have all these little sticks left over, cut these and save these. The longer the stick, the better. Just put them in a baggie and keep them, because that's where they're going to come in handy for things like this. Okay, so I'm going to add one to the top of this hat, push it all the way down. I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue, and I'm just going to sit this off to the side and let that hot glue cool off. The same thing with the coins. Okay, with the coins, I'm going to take this and I'm going to push it right into the side of the coin. Just be extra careful that it doesn't stick out on either end. So your coin's going to look like that. And just put just a little dab, you don't need much, of hot glue right on the end. And set these off to the side and just let them dry. So I'm going to do 3 coins the same way. Just be careful that when you're putting this in, that you don't poke it out coming from the front or the back. And then a little bit of hot glue to hold it. And just set it off to the side and let that glue dry. And I have one more here I want to do. Let's see, this one I made a little boo-boo. So let me just push all that back in. And let me find a thinner stick. I think that stick was just a little too thick. Now if you have a boo-boo, don't worry about it, because I'm going to place my stick in such a way that you're not going to be able to see that. Okay. And just a little bit of hot glue, and we'll let that dry. So I have 3 coins that is drying right now. I've got this drying. I've got one light green top hat, and now I have a dark green top hat. I'm going to add a stick to that. I mean, I want this thing to just be screaming St. Patrick's Day. So I'm going to put my stick, I'm going to shove it in right in the center on the bottom of the hat and just add a little bit of glue right there on the bottom. And I'm going to sit this off and let that dry. So now while all this is drying, let's check that's dry, but I'm not going to add any more paint until I'm completely done with this. So right now I'm really liking the placements of my flowers. I see one spot here that I can probably add another 4-leaf clover. So let me just put that in. And you know, guys, don't be afraid to add a lot of really neat things. Make it full, because that's what's going to set your designs apart from anyone else's. And detail, detail. I'm always talking about detail. Okay, so, I mean, as it is right now, this is gorgeous. But I'm not through with it. I want to add some more elements to it. So, let's see. This is dry now, so let me just straighten out the stem. This is the front part of my centerpiece, and I only have one of these. If you have several, then you can put them, disperse them however you want, but I only have one. So I'm going to shorten this stick, and I'm just going to find a spot probably right next to this top hat. Or maybe just above it. Let me go just above it. That way you can see it better. Just kind of find your way down in there. So isn't that cute? Now, my coins are dry. I'm just going to shorten them a little. So you've got, I don't know, that's about 5 inches. And I'm just I only have 3, so again, we want to do them nice, even spurts. And I'm going to put them down a little lower. Let's see. Definitely want one right here. And let's see, you want to make sure that your back has some goodies sticking out too, because you want to be able to, wherever you place this, that things are being able, you can see things from the back side just as well as the front. So you just want to push that down into the styrofoam as far as you can get it. Well, that one's not going down very well. Let's try a different little spot. There we go, that's better. And then I have my 3rd coin. And I think I'm going to put that coin right here. Let me shorten this up a little bit because I don't want it sticking out too far. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, now I have left some top hats. And I think I'm going to put them more towards the top. Let me shorten up my stem just a little bit. And again, make sure your flowers are not too pushed around. Let me shorten this one up. So I'm going to put one on one side and one on the other side. There we go. And now remember these little wispy things that I had? We're going to take these and just divide them out. Now this came on the bushel of the hydrangeas. If you don't have these, don't worry about it, but I'm just going to place these in just to give it a little more character. And there we go. So now all I have left to do is finish painting the ring. I might, I have some of these smaller, oh, here's another coin, but I don't want to add 4 coins. I want to do 3 coins. I have some smaller, some little smaller 4-leaf clovers. So let me grab some of these smaller ones. Let me do, let's see. I think I'm going to do 2 of the dark and 2 of the light color. And again, let me get my, I have sticks, my little extra sticks, and I'm going to poke these right down the center. Well, that one didn't work out too good. There we go. I'm going to add some hot glue. And just set that off to the side and let it dry. Let's see, I need some more sticks. Alrighty. And we're just going to add these, just a few more, just random sticking out. And as you can see, I'm putting this stick kind of at a sideways. So when it goes in, it's going to go in sideways like that. And I'm going to do the same one with same thing with this one. Let me just find one more stick. Let me check my bag here, see if I have one more. And it doesn't matter what color your stick is. Here's one right here. Green preferably, because we are working with green. But if you have black, black is fine. Just put that in. Put a little bit of hot glue. And we're just going to let that dry. And this one is going in at an angle as well. So let me let these 4 dry. This one's already ready to go. We just clip a little bit of that stem off. And we're going to put these down towards the bottom. I want these coming out at the bottom. And not only are they coming out at the bottom, but I'm going to bend the stick so they're kind of like flowing over. So there's one right there. I'm going to take the other one and just bend that stick. I'm going to place that one right over here. So I have 4 of them, so I'm going to do 2 on one side, 2 on the front side, and 2 on the back side. Just take that stick and bend it. And the last one. And just bend that stick so they kind of drape over. Okay. So now all I have left to do is I'm going to go back with my paint. Let me move everything off to the side. I'm going to go back with my paint, and I'm going to put a second coat of the gold paint around the handles. And again, you just want to, any gold paint that you use is fine. Just make sure, since it's a metallic, you want to shake it up very well. And if you're just joining me, the one I'm using is a Deco Art Dazzling Metallic Acrylic Paint. I bought this at Hobby Lobby, and Imperial Gold is the name of it. And since I don't need a lot of paint, I'm just going to use it right out of the lid. And I'm also using a 1/4 inch angle brush. So just grab a hold of it, tilt your centerpiece, and just lightly put a second coat on. And see, because we filed that top layer of that protective coating off of this, the second coat is going really smooth. And that's all you're going to need. Once that's dry, go back with a very thin coat of Mod Podge and make sure you're using the gloss Mod Podge, and just put a nice thin layer of Mod Podge right over this paint. That's going to protect it from chipping. And it's going to give it a nice shiny, an even shinier coat. If you think 2 coats is not enough and you want to do 3, make sure this is very well dry before you put your 3rd coat on. But for me, I think 1 coat is sufficient. So let me swing this around. Just be extra careful where you're grabbing it at. And let me do a second coat on this other side. And as I was saying earlier in the video, if you want to paint these first, before you even start working on your centerpiece, do that in advance. Make sure your paint's dry, you've done your Mod Podge, and then you don't have to worry about, you know, making a boo-boo and touching the paint while you're trying to arrange your flowers. I wanted to show you how I painted this. That's why I didn't paint mine in advance. So there. Let me just put that in water and let me give you a close-up look. That has 2 coats on either side. So now I'm just going to let that sit and dry. Pull my fingers out, make sure I don't touch it. And then once the paint is dry, I'm going to go back in with a gloss. Make sure it's gloss Mod Podge. You don't need a lot. You probably just need 1 coat. And again, whatever color gold you're using, if you feel that second layer, it doesn't give you quite the coverage you like, put a third coat on. Just make sure each layer of paint is dry before you put the second layer on. And this usually dries in about 30 minutes, depending on the temperature in your house. I like to let mine sit a good 45 minutes before I do a second coat. So I do see one spot on this side that probably could use a third coat, so I'm just going to let that sit. But for now, our centerpiece is done. I think it's adorable. This will be so cute as a centerpiece on your dining room table. You know, if you have an office, you can sit this on your desk at your office. But let me just give you a really quick look. This with the handle will be your front. And look how full it is and how festive. And again, all I did was I took two of these. One is in dark green, one is in light green. I unscrewed the back of it away from one of them and hot glued them back to back. So that way, no matter how you look at it, you get to see the pretty shamrock with the little hat. If you chose not to do this and you wanted to go with something like that, that would be right in the center. So, you know, it all depends. And then as far as all the little embellishments that are popping out of the flowers, you know, put as many or as little as you want. And anything that you did not use, and I want to stress this, anything you did not use and you don't want to keep that's still in the original package, always hang on to your sales receipt. You can return it. Or if you're starting a business and you want to kind of build up your inventory, what I like to do is I have a bin, maybe two actually, Tupperware bins, and I have them labeled per season or per holiday. Just put your little extra embellishments in there, and then you'll have them for next year. Or if you have a special order or you want to make a second one of these, you'll already have some. Like these green roses will not go to waste. I will use these in a spring decor. The baby's breath won't go to waste. Of course, I could always use this in a grapevine wreath. And then if you bought the assortment of these that came in the clear plastic container, just take them out of that container and put them in a baggie. And then you'll always have them, and you can use them for a late project down the road. So that's up to you. I know a lot of people are kind of on a tight budget. You don't want to spend a lot of money. Let me unhook that. And, you know, like I said, you can always return and get your money back. But like me, since I have a large assortment of inventory, I keep everything. So I always draw back to my inventory. That will save you from having to buy something down the road. So this is our project number 2 for February, our St. Patrick's Day centerpiece. I think it turned out so cute. And like I said, I'm going to wait until this dries. I might just go ahead and put a third coat on it. And then once a third coat dries, I will put my 1 coat of Mod Podge gloss. And that's it, ladies. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm looking forward to seeing your pictures and how your centerpiece turned out. And again, thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.